Hello again, everybody. For our second edition of Who Wrote This, which the first video wasn't planned, and this one wasn't either, but it feels like it's going to be an ongoing series at this point, as this is something we all experience. We go, who the heck wrote this set of instructions, this questionnaire, job application in this case? The title, of course, is about a particular part of the job application, but I will be speaking a little more generically as well. But the field of studies what got me going. So I've been working over the past month on a per diem security guard position for an area hospital. I think I mentioned this in another video. Um, the head of security is a nice older man. He made a decision to go ahead and he wanted me to hire me. He's pushing me HR. They said okay, but they went and had me fill out one application. Then they said, well, we need this other one for the background check with your prior addresses, employment history, which you already have that on the resume, but okay. We millennials and younger know the bane of what's the point of me giving you my resume and you having this software to strip away all the information and put it in, and we go through and spot check it because it always gets things wrong. What's the point of doing all that if we got to do this other form? But we do it anyway because we're desperate. Fine. They've known for many, many months they were going to switch over to a whole new system, which, as explained to me by the security supervisor, that changeover is actually a good thing because what they had me apply under was a system just for people applying for the jobs. They had another thing for payroll, another thing for this, another thing for. It was very segmented and efficient, and they found a company whose software does a whole bunch of things all together, makes it nice and neat. Very good. Okay. I've heard of this company before, vaguely, heard a few good things, but not too familiar. So let's assume that this new company has a good product and it's going to make things easier going forward. And I'm just dealing with this jarring situation. They knew I was going to be applying on the old system. They knew when the transition to the new system was going to occur. They had me waste my time filling out the first and second application under the now old software, where I've begun right now. It's paused to make this video. The new application under the new software. For what caused this video in particular, field of study. So when you start filling out the application, you upload your resume, you're going through the lines where autofills. And this is the first time I went through and it was only one thing I had to correct. It had one employer messed up, but I see where it got confused. So either the software is improving overall or this particular company software is much better. Great. I didn't have to go through and change pretty much everything. All my bullet points for the skills used or acquired at each different employer, those are all filled in nice and neat. Fantastic. Okay. I had high hopes, but I had a little paranoia in the back of my head as well. The next thing goes into your education. So I'll fill that correctly. In this particular case, it was filling in how I went to a particular trucking school. Good. Name's correct. There was a drop down for vocational/technical for type of institution, which I've never seen. Everywhere I've applied before, it's what high school, what college, university, diploma slash GED, or specify. I mean, legally it doesn't matter, but sometimes they have a split. But they had a vocational/technical. Wow, perfect! Yay! I don't have to fudge and call it a high school or college, and then the HR ladies get confused because, well, it's not college. You all have a crap system. I didn't have another option. Like I did high school, it's to be the college equivalent. This one, vocational/technical, all set. The trouble comes in at field of study. I have never seen such a comprehensive drop down menu. I was going through, it's all alphabetical. They get as specific as, say, air traffic controller. They have like gay and lesbian studies, gender studies. There's one thing, it just says Russian. It doesn't say Russian studies, just Russian. Maybe it's just an omission of the word studies, but I'm getting a little concerned about going to school to become Russian. We already have enough spies in this nation, don't we? So I'm going to look at this again. And we go from basic items like accounting to immediately, second item, actuarial science. Now, if you've seen Zootopia, if you didn't know otherwise, you had that little, what was it, the tiger cub, the little suit and the pen. And he goes, I want to be an actuary. And then you learn that has to do with taxes. I might be mistaken, but that's the general field. So, actuarial science, administration, advertising, aerospace engineering, African American studies. I don't know what that's useful. I'm not meaning to offend anybody, but what job are you going to get with that other than being a professor of African American studies? African languages, literatures, linguistics. And we get into agricultural, economics, education, journalism, mechanization. Okay. Air traffic control is stated. American history, literature, sign language, anthropology, apply mathematics or physics, agriculture, archaeology. Oh, okay, good, good, good. And I'm still thoroughly impressed with how extensive this list is. But you know what doesn't include? Anything to do with transportation. Now, you could argue air traffic control is transportation, fine. But there's nothing in here like, unless I missed it, say, dispatcher, whether it be trucking or railroad or otherwise. There's nothing here like bus driver, truck driver, transportation, um, transit oriented design. I'm not sure if they would call that degree, but something to do with like urbanism and designing mass transit systems or how to run them. There's nothing here that I can find that applies to me. Arts, education, art history, artificial intelligence, robotics, art therapy. Oh, I didn't know that was a degree. I always thought you went to some hole in the wall place run by a wine mom and you got to paint while getting slowly drunk or make items out of clay, right? Ceramics classes, which that is a valid form of therapy. No issue. I just didn't know it was a degree you could get. Art therapy. Okay, so we're gonna try and hurry this up a little bit. Aviation, bakery science. Now, I remember food science, taking that in high school. So, okay, you go from food to bakery science. At least you've heard of it. Different biologies, biomedical, botany. That's all valid. Business education, Canadian studies. I could make the usual, beaver logging syrup jokes about Canada, but that would just prove that I need Canadian studies. Uh, Canada's just our evil top hat. They let us know when we need to know something, and otherwise we don't poke their bears because their bears are much more scary and deadly than ours. So maybe diplomats need Canadian studies. Then we have immediately after that Caribbean studies, or how the Clintons launder billions of dollars and how to build homes out of cement and pressure wash them. And then later on, you move up to New England, specifically like Massachusetts, which my parents dealt with this as landlords, where folks in these cement homes, they're used to taking a garden hose or like wood buckets of water and basically swabbing the deck. They'd have the chickens and pigs living with them. It's a matter of practicality, I understand. But they would come up to these duplexes that were 100 something years old. They would do the same thing. They'd bring a hose up or they'd fill up the bucket and dump it out on these beautiful hardwood floors. The water goes out to the baseboards, gets sucked in underneath, and then overnight those boards all come up, they're cut, they're curled, they're ruined. Thousands of dollars, a nice hardwood flooring. Oftentimes you had floors like bird's eye maple that are extinct. You cannot get them anymore. And they're ruined because we brought third worlders in. You might say that's too aggressive and mean, and oh, they were just ignorant. Okay, you brought people with little cement huts from the little island nations, like Haiti, where they eat dirt cookies. That cannot be assimilated into our country, at least not in the numbers that we're bringing them in. It used to be, yeah, you bring folks in, but it had to be they're true refugees or mostly a merit based situation. I don't know who's coming from these Caribbean countries that are of merit. The the only example I can think of would be Cuba. We all know the infamous case of, was it 1957, 59-ish, where we had the embargo in place and they can no longer get American made cars and parts, and they've learned to take scrap metal and make brand new carburetors for 1950 Chevy Bel Air, for instance. I want Cuban machinists to come here. That's merit based. We are so much in dire need of qualified machinists, and the Cuban guys, I don't care if they're 80, they're out there, they're turning scrap metal, they're making replica parts, they're making improved parts for cars that our doctors, our dentists, our lawyers, and this has been joked about for decades, but there are people who literally have suitcases full of cash waiting for the day that they can go down to Cuba and buy these cars. Now, they don't have original engines at this point. It's been too far. But to get the bodies that have been kept up, that have been maintained, and what parts they can get. So Cuban machinists, come on in. I don't care if you don't speak a lick of English. We'll get a whole bunch of you together, kind of like a Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, where Mike is interviewing different gentlemen to handle that underground excavation for what became Fring's drug lab that Walter White and Jesse Pinkman worked in, right? Under that large laundromat, I believe it was, right? They were set up in this warehouse type facility. They had the TV, the basketball hoops. They had a little manufactured housing. They were sequestered, right? They were kept hidden from the general populace to do the specific job. I'm not saying do that, but for folks like the Cuban machinists, we can make an exception because merit and skill based. We badly need them, and those folks hate they hate socialism more than we possibly could. Right? They've lived under it, and even if they're in old age, if they say, "I'll come here, but I need to have a handful of family members." Okay, I think we can make some exceptions as long as we can do to the best of our abilities, do a background check, make sure they're good people. Come on in. We're going to work this out. You and your family, your immediate family, are going to have a much better future here in the States, and have allowances for sending money back after our second Bay of Pigs invasion. It looks like we're getting ready to have, which hopefully this one's actually successful, right? If we're going to get involved, let's do it right? No half-assing, please. I like to not get involved, but if we're going to, let's go in to actually do it right. Make it worthwhile. I digressed. I know. I rambled. Back to the list here. Biotechnology. We did that there. Cell biology. Chinese. Not Chinese studies, just Chinese. Don't know about the quality of that education. Bad joke aside. Church music. I know there are religious colleges, but church music, very specific. Cinematography, film production, okay. Circulation technology. Is that like circulation of like publications? Is it circulation of your blood flow? No idea. Civil engineering, clinical psychology, classics. Field of study, classics. What? Classic cars, classic film, classic what? Computer engineering, graphics, information sciences, counseling, crafts. Creative writing, that's something. Criminal science, criminology, culinary arts, dietetics. No, it makes sense with the pharmaceutical industry. Okay. East Asian studies, East European studies, ecology, economics. Okay, good. Psychology, education of the deaf. That's specific, but I understand. Uh, English, etymology, entrepreneurship, good. Epidemiology, equine studies, film, fiber textiles, weaving arts, feed science, as in, I guess, animal feed. Didn't know that was a thing, but that makes sense. So I'm learning about some new fields or areas I didn't realize were this involved before you even received on the job training. A lot of these I thought you went for something else and then you would specialize once in the field. So this might be a good thing actually. If you have people who've been in the field and now they are in the colleges teaching these, if that's the case, they're not just going from a textbook. If they're experienced in the field, they're keeping up to date, this is actually really good news. But still, I'm not finding anything that fits me, though we're only in the F's. Food science. Oh, there we go. Remember from high school I mentioned furniture design, game design, gay and lesbian studies. I am bi, I'm questioning some other things, but I don't know if it warrants having a whole degree. Geography. Fair. We are in America. We don't know geography unless you piss us off enough and we have to go kick your butt. Then we still know acutely where you are located within a city block or more distinct. Geology, German, and not German studies, just German. I guess it's language, but you think they say that? Gerontology, I think that's study of old people. Hebrew, high school / GED. Now, normally it would just be a high school degree, and we would have already covered that. I'm not sure why it's under field study. Historic preservation. So it does exist. I'm going to file that way for later because of my interest in trains. History, home economics, horticulture, human resource management. Oh, this is where the HR biddies come from. Call back to a prior video. Illustration, industrial design, Italian, Japanese, jazz studies. I don't know why that can't just be under music, but okay. Jewish studies. If you study that, you're going to become a little unfriendly, but we'll leave it there. Kinesiology, Kinesiology. I'll have to look that one up. Land use planning and management. Okay, we're getting slightly into urban planning. Good. Law, library, science. That's right, folks. You need a degree to be a librarian. It's a real thing. I didn't know learning the Dewey Decimal System, putting those nice plastic covers onto books, taping them up, which they do a nice job, of course, protecting the books. And it takes you a few minutes to cut that plastic material and tape it up, right? You got to go put the books on a little cart and go up down the aisles, put the books in the right spot, the check-in, the checkout process. And why does that require a degree? That sounds like any old person could handle that. You hit 65, sorry, it's 67 now. You retire, you want something to do, you go work at the library. They could teach you how to do this in a day or two. And then they can let you go F off. If you have a question, you ask the head librarian. You don't need a degree to be a freaking librarian, at least not in a public library. And even if you try to make the argument you need it for, say, a college librarian specifically, okay, but I don't recall the college librarian really running any courses on things like bibliographies, of citing your sources, formatting your paper, using your Microsoft suite, things like Excel. I don't recall that when I went to community college. I was there for a year and a half before I had to leave. So what does a librarian need a degree for? Sort of like public school teachers, how at least in states like Florida, I'm not sure if it's a national thing, they have to go for continuing education. So there's a minimum degree to teach, but they must continually go into debt up through until they obtain at least their master's degree. And when I graduated high school in 2012, the average pay for any teacher outside of college, right? K through 12 was it 34 to $36,000? Supposedly it's gone up about 10 grand. So let's say it's $46,000 gross. And you cannot pay cash unless you manage to get some really good scholarships. Maybe there's connections. But every teacher I knew was continuously going further, deeper into debt to obtain more degrees for bupkis pay raises or any upping in benefits. That demoralizes your faculty at the school. That doesn't help you with education. That makes the teachers go, I really hate this job. I hate these kids. It's not worth it. I am not in charge. I have no authority. I am a glorified babysitter, as they'll say. And we wonder why the teachers are so sour. Oh, and how much they have to spend out of pocket on school supplies. I'm 32. My mother's 70. When they went to school in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you didn't have a school supply shopping list. If you needed something, it was provided. It may not be named brand Crayola, for instance, but they go, here's your box of crayons, here's your notepad, here's your binder, here's this. We're making book protectors out of brown paper bags. We're not buying them. It's a little tear, you patch it or replace it, right? Nope, go get a bag and some tape, fix it when you have a moment. What's going on? About on average, half of your property taxes are for funding the schools. We're spending the most per pupil in the world, and yet we're 40th in education. We've had the Department of Education, a federal entity, since was it 1979, 1980? I always get that mixed up by a year. But since the Department of Education was formed, you strengthen the teachers' unions, which I support unions, but there's always a problem where the unions solve problems. They do a lot of good, but then there's creep in a way. You have the issue of the membership saying, what has the union done for me lately? Both the old heads say that, and then the folks coming on board go, why am I paying X amount on my paycheck every week or every other week, depending on how it's paid out? Why am I spending this amount per paycheck for a union when it's just a matter of they protect me if I screw up, they help, or a false accusation, misunderstanding, right? That happens plenty in any job. But outside of that, what have they gotten me for raises, for benefits, workplace, improve the environment? So the unions have to cause some instigation. They have to push for things and have an adversarial relationship between themselves, the membership, and the boss. In this case, the educational institutions. So it's an us versus them. You need the union. You do, but you're making it out to be much worse than it is, I think, in most cases. They make work. They inflate budgets. They waste money because the way the law is written, and this goes for police and fire and all sorts of other governmental agencies, they'll fight to get raises in their budget for things they do need. New fire trucks, equipment, training, right? But then there are other years they don't need as much. But if they go from using this much and it goes down to this much, that's where the budget gets cut. And it's very hard to get your budget raised again. So it's a very much case of if you don't use it, you lose it. So they go, well, we'll buy these TVs in store, we'll buy this paper, we'll buy this car, just use up the budget so we can say we need more, where we at least need what we're getting currently. So when we do need more, we don't have to fight for it, which takes months or years and referendums and so many council meetings. It's there. So it's not necessarily I have a bad place. I get why they're doing it, but it's really messed up. It's costing us, the taxpayers, a fortune. It causes resentment because we see the waste found by people online. You have employees who snitch, and they'll show photos. They'll give anecdotes of what they've witnessed, and it just doesn't help anybody out. There should be incentives for saving money. There needs to be a mechanism where if you need something, you submit, the little process, little paperwork. But what's come up is an emergency. There was a mistake, whatever it is, little bit of documentation. Okay, how much do you need? If it's under a certain amount, It needs to be a quicker process. Over a certain amount, it's going to take a little longer, but that's an item to get on. Back to the list of fields of study. Marine science, marine biology, okay. Massage therapy. Um, yes, I understand it's legitimate, but my brain went to how do you volunteer for that, for them to practice on you because of the happy endings. And, how else are you supposed to get folks to line up for volunteers? How else do you train people for massage therapy? You use some robotic dummy like for um, mouth to mouth. I'm forgetting the correct term. That what nurses practice on. Let's see, mass communication, material science, medieval Renaissance studies. No, go to a Ren fair. Merchandising and buying options. Okay, it's boring, but that's a real thing. Metallurgical engineering, microbiology, military science, mill engineering, missions. What kind of missions? Modern Greek. Modern Greek. Let's see, they're broke, but they are becoming very, very based about taking care of foreign invaders on the spot, dispatching them to the afterlife, shall we say. So Greece is turning around. Okay, museum studies, fine. Theater, education, history, music therapy, Native American studies, or how we didn't wipe them out like any other culture would have, and they just won't stop whining about it, even with the casino stipulation, which I get there are plenty of white groups behind the casinos, and they use the natives as sort of a mask, but that's the natives' fault for not knowing how to negotiate. I mean, they're bad negotiating to begin with. That's not our fault. We came along and they hadn't even mastered the freaking wheel. It's called conquering, not stealing. Naval architecture. So it's not. I don't think it's designing ships. I'll have to look that one up. Nuclear engineering, neuroscience, good. Nursing, nutrition, occupational theory, ocean engineering. Is this sort of like sea walls, like that plan that Italy has to help protect Sicily, etc., from the flooding? I mean, if so, that's not my cup of tea, but it is interesting. Oceanography, okay. Orthotics and prosthetics. Now that's one of the few jobs I've seen, or fields of study rather, here that directly relate to the hospital I'm applying to. Other is repeated 3 times, or rather it's once and repeated twice. Painting, paleontology, pastoral studies. I know what that is. I can't think of it. Peace studies. How do you study something that doesn't really exist in the world? Petroleum engineering, pharmacology, photojournalism, phys ed, planetary science, political science, communication, pre-dentistry. How do you perform dentistry before the dentistry? If you're a fan of George Carlin, you may be familiar with his tirade almost about the overuse of the pretext like preheat the oven. The oven can only be in 2 states. It is either heated or unheated. It cannot be preheated. Only preheating going on is like there you go, process is you reaching forward and then grabbing the knob, to light the burner, or if it's electric, to actually kick on the electric coils, right? Only preheating going on is you thinking about turning on the oven and then reaching out and turning the dial to click it on. If you want to call it preheating, fine. But I'm still going to slowly walk away from you because you're a nut. Pre-law. Okay. Is that like consultation? Is that what they mean? Like you're a dental consultant, you're looking at the person's mouth and you're seeing, like you're doing the x-rays, you're doing the physical exam of their teeth and gums and making a plan for, okay, yes, you have a cavity, you need to have teeth extracted, root canal, whatever it is, and then you come back for the actual dentistry appointment where they do the extraction or the fillings, for instance. It's like pre-law is when you call up on the phone and you're telling them the basic details of the case, and the secretary or not secretary, they're not a lawyer yet. They're like a lawyer in training. Listens to it. They ask the probing questions to filter out people who are going to waste their time, either purposely or just because they don't know if they have a case, and go, yes, you have a case. Sounds like you do. Let's bring you in for a follow up. Or no. This answer you gave me or this detail you gave me indicates you do not have a case, at least not as it is. I'm sorry, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe pre-law, pre-dentistry, pre-medicine, pre-optometry is the consultation. Feel free to let me know. Printmaking, psychology, public relations, radiology, range science and management. Okay, it's right after radio, public relations, radiologic technology, but when I hear range science and management, I'm thinking like a gun range. I'm not sure what other range they're thinking of. Real estate. I thought that's called being a realtor, but they do have the option for vocational / technical. So maybe real estate is what they call being a realtor or a broker. Well, it's not really a broad field, is it? Rehabilitation services, which apparently I just need because of my stutter. Religious studies, respiratory therapy, rural studies. So you go out there like Mr. Attenborough from the BBC, and you live amongst the rural populace and study their ways. Very interesting. If you want to stay with current events, I suppose rural studies would go, how do we get folks in rural areas to stop cutting down, otherwise destroying flock cameras? That's the neat part. You don't. See. Oh, sorry. In rural sociology, then it's just Russian, Scandinavian studies, sculpture, social work, soil science, sound engineering, which is real. If you're doing recording for a movie or an album, for instance, sound engineering is a very fascinating science. And if you are a fan of the band Queen, I'm forgetting his name right now. He's one of the few surviving members. He's the lead guitarist. But one of the things he studied was sound. I think he's also was an astrophysicist or something. Like NASA periodically brings him in on projects. He's not just a pretty face on guitar. That man is quite brilliant, actually. If you were to see interviews with him on outer space. Speech pathology, special ed, surveying, okay. So for the T's, remember at the very beginning I mentioned the lack of transportation-related fields, unless you count like air traffic control, right? We have teacher education, teaching English as a second language, technical writing, technology education, textile engineering, theater, theology, tourism, toxicology, and it goes down to urban planning, urban studies, welding, wildlife management, women's studies. Women don't understand each other. Youth ministries. Okay, go work at a church or the YMCA, and then finishes with zoology. This is now a 34-minute video. I don't know which field to put, and I am about to text the security supervisor and tell him I cannot find anything remotely like what I have, but you have to put something. It has a little red asterisk. It's required field. I'm going to put something random, I guess, and have fun with it. And just as a heads up, because they have nothing to do with any sort of professional driving of bus, of school bus, of dispatching, nothing related. Apparently, the folks who literally make America move don't get any mention in this company's, not the hospital company, the software developer companies, not in their thought process one bit. And this is all too common. We get left out. Everyone gets upset when they get stuck behind the bus, get stuck behind the truck, but they don't think about what that bus or truck is carrying. They don't think about how important it is, how much it actually keeps off the road. Same thing with trains. Folks get stuck at a road crossing for 3 minutes and lose their bloody mind. They don't go, yeah, but that train's 50 to 180 something cars long. And if you see where it's intermodal containers and stacked too high, as in one container, two container of those C cans, as they're called, if you have a 150 car train of those and they're stacked too high, that's 300 trucks that you'd have to deal with on the road. But you gotta wait 3, 5 at most minutes for the train to cross that crossing. Oh no. Just gotta put a little poke at the NIMBYs there at the end. So tell me about your experiences about who wrote this job application edition. Let me know your frustrations and any solutions you found to them. See you down in the comments.